On what a lot of people are dubbing Frimpong Friday, Real Madrid choose to announce hashtag welcome Trent, using a picture of him, of course, from his time in the England camp. I'm pretty sure that's an England hoodie. And paying Liverpool 10 million euro, which is about 10 times what Liverpool fans were expecting to get. So I guess, guys, we can first of all reduce the booing, but now he's not a Liverpool player anymore, doesn't wear a Liverpool shirt, and has changed his Instagram account, as you'll see in a second, to Real Madrid. We can do what we want. Apparently, it's all about wearing the shirt. Anyway, the Spanish club will pay 10 million euro, that's 8.4 million pounds, in a single payment for Trent Alexander-Arnold, with the deal worth even more to Liverpool, as they will no longer obviously pay the salary and the bonuses between now and the end of June, which was June 30th. Of course, that means that these three men holding this Premier League trophy are geniuses. Real Madrid would have wanted to pay 0 for this. They wanted to pay nil. They wanted to pay null, nothing, zip, finite amount. We can do that because they're Spanish. Do you know what I mean? It would be like vaguely xenophobic if it was another place, but they're Spanish people. This guy right here, genius, right? First of all, just put a G on the chest there. G. This guy, he used to wear glasses, so I'm not going to put a pair of glasses on him, but he is a genius. G, you can just have a little like collar because you're cool. He's not a priest. Anyway, they got 10 million euro, 8.4 million pounds out of Real Madrid when Real Madrid were thinking this was a free transfer. Suckers. I hope we see them in the Champions League. Now, obviously, you know, you can look a little bit bitter in these times when people leave. Liverpool fans booed him. I think they booed him at the right time. They did the booing before there was the final day of the season. Final day of the season has got 0 coverage. He was not booed at Anfield. He was very much cheered at Anfield, as he was on the parade. Obviously, there's the Curtis Jones moment, but that's very different. And you know, we can all have our feelings about that. I think the fact that Curtis Jones feels that way probably shows an element of A, authenticity about Curtis Jones, but B, a bit of authenticity about the way that Liverpool fans are feeling. I'm just saying, sometimes it's okay to joke, sometimes it's okay to boo. I hope we get them in the Champions League, mainly because I'm really excited to see what happens on Frimpong Friday, Wirtz Wednesday, and I want to say Kirkes Sunday. I don't know why. Seems like a good day. Anyway, moving on from that, here's the real reason that they signed Trent Alexander-Arnold. They have 3 really tricky games in their pre-season / World Club Cup. First of all, Al Hilal. I know that there will be some people hate watching. As Sam Maguire here points out, look, Sam points out, 10 million and a hate watch that now starts in June. Fair enough. We do get quite a lot for that. We get the Al Hilal hate watch. I don't think Trent will play in that. Although maybe he will. That's 2 weeks of training. Then you get the Pachuca game. Then you get the Red Bull Salzburg game. I guarantee you guys that there will be people in this tournament who are trying to go past Trent. I'm also going to tell you this. I still have a theory that Trent is not 100% fit right now. Just watching the way he moves, those kind of things. I'm sure the Real Madrid medical staff are going to have their day with him, as do most of the Real Madrid medical staff when players go to their club, but we will see. Trent ultimately joins Real Madrid, and if I scroll over here, you can see it now says Real Madrid CF at the very top of his profile. That's the only thing that I don't really... all of this, I'm fine with. It's the kind of corporate side of it I don't really like. I think this looks like he's dead. Maybe he's dead some of you, but this looks a bit like he's dead. They're using him here in a Liverpool shirt. Didn't really like that. Didn't think that was overly classy, but is what it is. Official announcement, comunicado oficial, blah, blah, blah. And then here's the other one, the kind of cheesy thing that they do. 2025, they're tweeting about a tweet that he did in 2014 when he's flying to Madrid. That's not him. If it has been that long, and he's been planning it since 2014, then yeah, I think he's a sociopath. But I don't think he has. By the way, weird day to announce it on Steven Gerrard's birthday. The most loyal man to Liverpool, if anything. And then finally, Fabrizio Romano, of course, tweeting about the £1 billion release clause that's in his contract. First of all, I look forward to PSG triggering that in 3 years' time. It's a 6-year deal, by the way. I think he's on a pretty fat whack for that. I think he'll also have had pretty fat whack, as you would put it, for joining Real Madrid in the first place, as will some other people around him. But at the same time, $1 billion is pretty much in line with anyone else who's joining a Spanish club. They all set these ridiculous release clauses, mainly because I don't think a lot of people expect to trigger them. They make the player feel a little bit special. It's a cool thing to see on your contract. And I also think there's probably some insurance scheme going on there where it's like, well, we got $1 billion asset right here. We're going to insure against that to do X. Does that make sense? There's some sort of insurance job going on there. That's all I'm saying. By the way, this not a good Photoshop of Trent. Not really sure why he's in this, but none of that looks real. Does that make sense? None of that looks good. Of course, he joins his legendary friend, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Jude Bellingham. Trent Alexander-Arnold Bellingham. Trent Bellingham-Arnold. Trent Alexander-Bellingham. Actually has a bit of a ring to it. And finally, he joins a brilliant set of Englishmen. Of course, in recent years, we've seen certain people over there from our side of the pond. Stevie, we've also got Bex, obviously Jude's there. Do you remember Woodgate? I also remember Michael Owen sort of peeking out at the back there. And there have been a few other guys who've crossed over to Spain in their time. So, it doesn't feel that terrible. But at the same time, it doesn't feel that terrible because it is indeed Frimpong Friday. And I think Liverpool are moving on tactically from whatever it is that Trent would have brought to them. Can I go over here? I'll go to this article. I'll go to that. This gives you a small preview of the video that I'm looking at releasing later about Liverpool's overall tactical adaptability. This here is Frimpong. These are him overlapping Salah, but also, if I get rid of these two, I think I can just move those out because I will need them later. Oh my God, I've messed that up. Why can't I move that out? There you go. Salah, I think, will cut a little more inside. We're probably looking at more like a 2-4-4, probably with Gravenberch dropping in between the two to kind of give that little bit of coverage. Not Partey style, but kind of, defensive midfield style. When we need it, we'll have that. I also think Konate covers an awful lot of ground. I think Virgil covers an awful lot of ground. I think Alisson as a sweeper keeper certainly helps us in that. Mamardashvili, not quite the same vibe, so I do think that will be a little bit different. But I think we're going to see a lot more offensive Liverpool next season. And I think especially with Florian Wirtz and if we sign an Ekitike type striker up there, we'll see a lot more of people getting into this kind of area. This is what they call the hot zone. And I think we'll see a lot more of Frimpong overlapping, underlapping, Salah pushing out wide, Szoboszlai getting in there, Ekitike dropping deep, Ekitike on the edge of the box, receiving the ball, Wirtz running off that Frimpong, Kirkes. There's going to be so many different combinations. What we're making is an adaptable Liverpool team. And I'm not saying that Trent wasn't adaptable. Boy, could that guy Hollywood ball it. But I do think that with someone like Frimpong in the side, we're a lot more of an adaptable side, especially because of the pace that Frimpong brings. Don't get me wrong, I don't think Trent's a slow player. But again, if we're talking about mobility, I think Frimpong certainly has that adaptability and mobility that Trent certainly didn't possess towards the end of his Liverpool career. A lot of people kind of calling that out. We call it out on this channel. It's by no means criticism. It's just an observation that I don't 100% feel that towards the end of his Liverpool career, Trent was at his 100% best. And I think that's a very fair observation. Having said that, we are going to miss what, you saw the clips from the weekend where Trent just drills that ball low into midfield and it's straight into the feet was that Szoboszlai? I can't remember who it was on the weekend, but it's straight into those feet. I just think what we're going to do is change the ball movement within the side. And Frimpong, again, allows us to change that ball movement, as does Salah dropping inside. Some people are talking about it almost becoming like this 3-4-3 type thing. I still think we keep these two at the back because I think they cover so much space. I think the level of dominance that we have, you probably also do that. There are going to be certain games where Gravenberch is a little bit deeper. There will be certain games where McAllister and Gravenberch push down the field because it's about breaking that low block. And that's where the two and the numbers, I think people get a bit obsessed with that. They also get a bit obsessed with replacing Trent as a right back. What we're really replacing is Trent's skills and the ball movement within the team. And that's why we went for Florian Wirtz. That's why we're going for an Ekitike that can, play the ball off to a Wirtz or to a Szoboszlai or to a Salah and create goals in a way that, again, not a criticism of Nunez, but he wasn't the player that was going to hold the ball up. He could hold it up, but he wasn't the player to hold the ball up in the way that an Ekitike might, in the way that a big guy in the game might. And he wasn't the guy to do that, what feels like quite seamless in the moment hookup play. There were moments of it where you could clearly see that he'd had some coaching and you could clearly see that he began to understand those concepts that Slot wanted. But ultimately, there's a reason that when we have Saudi coming in for Diaz and Nunez, we are seeing a receptive approach from Liverpool, rather than, hey, there's a lot of money to offer for him and actually we really want that guy here. You should feel a way that you don't want your striker to ever leave your club if you have a striker. There are certain players in the team you should just be bonded to, no matter what. And I know that Liverpool's financial model maybe doesn't always model for that. That's really beyond my point, right? As fans, we should have strikers and players that we don't want to see go, that we think are irreplaceable pieces in the team. And even if that's just an emotional response and the reality is every player is replaceable, the feeling should be, wow, I want that guy on our side. And I think Liverpool have got this balance of, and that's partially why I think Trent was allowed to leave the club. We know that as much as Trent jumped to Madrid, and he has a great skill set, the reality was that I actually think Arne Slot probably prefers another style of fullback. And integrating Trent into this team was probably much more of a challenge than it was a solve for someone like Arne Slot. So that's why we offered him a big contract. But I would imagine we offered him a big contract with the idea that we knew that Trent was going to leave anyway. Late offers, all these kind of things. There's different ways of telling people, well, you're in our plans or you're not. And I think ultimately a lot of that will come out in the wash. In the future, you're probably going to see like a system like this where you see literally our players, why can't I move these arrows in an easy way? Literally our players being all out attack. And there probably is like three back here, Virgil van Dijk, Konate and Gravenberch, just being almost like a cushion for the rest of the team. Gravenberch even coming down the field. Look how attacking that feels. Before we didn't have the mobility with Robertson, always. And before we didn't have the mobility with Trent. And I think very often we became quite solvable. And don't get me wrong, I love the ball that Trent can put into the box. I love the play that Andy Robertson has. But there comes a point where other teams are solving you, other teams are working these things out, and we're not really sure that we wanted to continue that. So when we see Trent happy, I mean, these are old photos, but ultimately we will see videos and photos and even Trent himself kind of, he's changed his Instagram already. That doesn't feel as bad for me. And I think, again, it shows a common misunderstanding from most people outside of Liverpool as to what the anger was around Trent leaving, because it shows a fundamental misunderstanding of where the anger was kind of directed and the reasons people were angry. This, first of all, makes me feel a lot better. But secondly, it also shows, I don't think Trent was part of the overall Liverpool vision. And I think that's fair enough. Anyway, I appreciate you guys watching the video. I appreciate you checking in. There is a Discord, there is a Patreon, and there's also a Super Chat down there. Use it. Use any of the three of them. Of course, the Discord is absolutely free. Get in there and start chatting with people. We do have an exclusive room for Patreon members. But I appreciate you guys looking in, and I appreciate you being part of our community. Comment down below. Let me know how you're feeling on the day that Trent moves. Does it make you feel better because we know there are some big things on the horizon? Or does it make you feel still quite cold about the whole situation because equally you could lose another player in the meantime to a Real Madrid or someone else? Let me know what you guys are thinking and I'll chat to you in a while. Much love.